All right, so 2025 is gone, freshly buried. It was rough in some ways at times, but of course there were ups as well as downs. And I'm usually in a contemplative mood around this time, as one is, not unusual. And I've been thinking about how I'm glad that I never tried to make it big on YouTube. Now, I've been successful since 2007. It was my dream to be able to make a living with YouTube. At first, it was a nebulous, unrealistic dream that I thought, it's never going to happen, but it would be nice. And then I became more and more serious about it, and then eventually it happened, and I'm still doing that, even though things are a little more difficult these days. But what I mean by going big was I never tried to go full professional. Like, this is still a one-man show. I still haven't even hired an editor. I thought about it at times. But I always go back to doing things myself. I like it that way. It limits how much you can do, particularly in my case where not just time, but also energy is a limiting factor. But it's authentic. That's how I like it. Whereas I've seen some channels, they've just gone professional in the sense that, they've expanded, they have a team, editors and various other people, and maybe even someone who writes scripts. And that's where things can get a little iffy. Like the Cinemassacre plagiarism, where suddenly it turned out, oh, James didn't actually write this himself, someone else did, and then he just read it. Now, I understand it. I get it. Like, I'm not trying to, berate people like that, or like, oh, how dare you try to scale up the production and get people in to help out with things and make it more professional and maybe increase the production quality, things of that nature. But that, I could never do that. I mean, I could, but I wouldn't want to. Read what someone else has written. No, it's just not a power at all. I mean, I don't even do scripts. I just talk, right? And, that makes things worse in some ways, but also, as said, more authentic. Not that authenticity is everything, but it's important to me personally. So when you look at some of the tendencies, it seems like channels on YouTube generally have a certain lifespan, regardless of what they do. One example that comes to mind is Zombie Go Boom. It started in late 2011, and they did the start really professionally. Like, they did a lot of preparation beforehand. They did promotion. They, generated some hype before it happened, and they made sure that the production quality was very high. So they spend a lot of upfront they spend a lot of money on upfront costs, is what I'm trying to say, to make sure that it really starts with a bang. And it did. It sure did. And it quickly became popular, gathered a lot of views. I don't know exactly when they peaked, but it seems like about 8 years ago, they started to run into some difficulties. Views kind of slowly declined over time. And 2 years ago, they moved into a new studio, and nothing really happened since then. And before then, like 4 years or so, they had some issues. They had to move out of the place they were, etc. So from what I can tell, they were going from 2011 to roughly 2021. So a decade. A decade is a long time. But it's a shame that it couldn't last longer, and they really tried. It was a great concept, really good execution. Execution, yeah. They had the execution after all. It should have lasted longer. But that's just how these things go, and I'm not sure if they could have done anything better. That's kind of the thing. And when you scale it up like that, then it hits you even harder when the views start to drop off for whatever reason, whether it be viewer fatigue or constantly changing rules on YouTube and algorithm changes and this and that and the other, and how the niche is doing, how saturated it is. There's so many factors, right? So regardless of what it is, you can't make it last forever. It's just not how that works. And when there is a decline and you're running things on a fairly high level, then now you're running into trouble. Now, I've had to scale back my expenses significantly and downsize and all of that, but that was just stuff. That was just a matter of spending less on videos and, getting rid of more stuff and all of that, as opposed to having to let someone go. Or you're just like, hey, I appreciate you, but I can't afford to pay you anymore. That sucks. That's awful. So I'm glad that I never had to do that. It seems some are immune from the lifespan thing. Like Moist Critical. He can turn on the camera and talk about anything, and every video will get at least 1 million views consistently. There's no sign of decline whatsoever. He's also a good example of how it's possible to go big without losing yourself. And he seems perfectly authentic and genuine and all that, which, that often suffers on the way if you're trying to make it big, or if you get there by whatever means, selling out the way some do. And that's also where I'm glad that I didn't go down that path. And it's easy. The temptation is there. I've gotten so many sponsorship offers. In fact, still basically at least one a week.
Hey, do you want to promote our online casino, or our crappy gacha game, or our laser welder, or our AI-driven smart underwear?
The last one I made out, but the others, yeah. Gotten so many offers, and they all end up in the spam folder. And again, I'm very glad, because just thinking about the honey scandal, yeah, I could have accepted that too. Could have promoted that shit. Ugh. From overpriced garbage nobody needs to crypto scams, the sky's the limit. And people have even been encouraging me. Like, oh, it's fine if you have to run sponsorships or whatever. Go get the bag. It's fine. We don't mind. Yeah, but I mind selling my soul off one bit at a time. At least that's how I feel about it. Like, no shade on others who do that. As long as you vet your sponsors as much as you can. Okay, this is my personal standard. I'm not applying that to everyone. But part of the problem is that they often want you to present things in a certain way. They'll say like, oh, hey, kid, can you be more enthusiastic about this? I mean, I've had cases where they would present me with, this is what we wanted to talk about, and do this and do that, and then I already didn't do it quite the way they wanted, because they would suggest sentences verbatim that I would never say, and I just wouldn't do it. And then I would record the clip for the promo, and then they'd be like, can you be more enthusiastic? And I'm like, no, I will not fake it. Your money does not buy my fake enthusiasm, because it just feels wrong to distort yourself. Sure, you can play a role for a video, like for a skit or something, or you can ham things up a little bit for entertainment or whatever, but to just take payment to say something that you otherwise would never do, that rubs me the wrong way. And finally, I've never understood people's obsession with fame and riches, especially fame. Why would you want to be famous? I just want my peace and quiet. I just want to do my thing. I don't need people to know who I am or try to pry into my personal life or whatever. It's just, I don't understand the appeal. Even just running into someone in public at the grocery store or wherever who recognizes me, is weird. Now, I don't mean that person is being weird. No offense to anyone who does that. It's fine. It's just, for me, to be treated like some sort of celebrity is bizarre. I'm just a weirdo who bumblefucked his way into making a living with what he enjoys. I'm not special. I don't need to be. I just need to be me. I just want to do my thing, unbothered as much as possible. In fact, in hindsight, if I had had a good way to do all this anonymously, without even showing up in videos, I would have done that, again, in hindsight. And it wouldn't have. I don't see any way in which I could have, but either way, there's some channels that do that. There's some who make videos where you only hear their voice, you never see them or whatever. Either way, and fame sometimes does things to people. I mean, I don't know if it's really that, if it's really becoming famous, or if it's just this person already is a douchebag at heart, and then the indulgence that comes with the fame makes them just unleash that and just say, oh, I can be a douchebag and I get rewarded for it. Great. If it's that, or if it's if there's something about the process that makes people more, I don't know, narcissistic or callous toward others, or I don't know what it is really, but it's definitely a thing. I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You can think of plenty of examples of that happening. There are, of course, also people who got famous without it going to their head. Absolutely. And even if it doesn't go to your head, there are things that happen. There's some changes, for sure. Like, particularly when you do things for a living, like, yeah, there's a difference in how you look at things, because it's no longer just, hey, I want to do this. Now it's more like, hey, I want to do this, but will it work? Like, will the algorithm allow it? Or will this idea or impulse that I have at the moment be equivalent to algorithmic self-termination? Numbers. Yeah, I wish I didn't have to care about numbers at all. I wish I could just do my thing. And for the most part, I do, but so in the sense that whatever I make is something that I wanted to make, but other things that I also want to make, I might not, because I would get punished for it. Yeah, so there is a certain focus on numbers, and I suppose that can come across as being attention-seeking, like, oh, I need more eyeballs on my stuff, but it's just, I just want to do my thing and have fun with it and have it be sustainable, without getting rich. I have no ambitions in that way. Like, it goes as far as I would love to be able to buy a nice house on Vancouver Island, because that's still what feels like home to me. But the way the prices are, $1.5 million, not happening. That is an impossible mortgage, and it seems wrong to spend that much too. Like, I don't understand. Like, why would you want to live in a $10 million or $20 or $100 million home? This is insane. It's completely excessive and like well beyond unnecessary. I mean, there's necessity, there's comfort and pleasure and all, and then there's something way above. Like, I can't understand why or how you would want to hoard hundreds of millions, let alone billions. That is completely above and beyond anything I find even remotely reasonable, So, yeah, I would never want to be a Mr. Beast with the dead eyes and the creepy rictus grin. I don't see the appeal. I don't have a need for it. And it can go wrong in a lot of ways. And as said, chances are, for most people, for most mere mortals, it'll just come down sooner or later anyway. So yeah, overall, would I like to be doing better than I have been lately? Yes. But do I want to be super big on YouTube? Do I need, a million views for every single video or something like that. No. Sometimes less is more because more would come at a different kind of cost. I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here. And I still feel very privileged to be able to still do this. Every year I'm kind of wondering for how much longer can I do it, but hey, it's still going, and I haven't sold my soul, and that I can be proud of. So, yeah. I've been talking for way too long. I'm going to cut it off here. Let me know what you think about all these things. Thanks for listening, somehow making it all the way to the end. Was this long-ass ramble. And Happy New Year. Take care, folks.